Welcome in, everyone, to my latest start sit video where I give you one must start and one must sit for every position for this slate. Of course, if you like what we're doing here, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and in those comments, leave any additional start sit questions. I'll answer them. And with that said, let's jump in to quarterbacks. My must-start quarterback for the week, Sam Howell. I have him at quarterback 8. It's important to note, these rankings are all on the Patreon. The link is at the top right corner. You can get a 7-day free trial right now. Of course, I'm recording this on Friday afternoon, but those rankings will be updated throughout the weekend. These are just the rankings as of the video. So, Sam Howell, quarterback 8. He's averaging 274.6 passing yards a game and about 40 passing attempts. And he has a little bit of a rushing floor, 17.4 rushing yards. But he's not actually playing well. 7 yards per attempt, 44 sacks taken, which is horrible. 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions through 9 games is like fine. 66.6% completion is decent. But in fantasy, volume is what matters. He's not getting benched. Certainly not in game. He's playing the Seahawks, which is a strong matchup. So I have him quarterback 8. Remember, volume matters more than real life ability. So quarterback 8 must start for me, Sam Howell. Must sit quarterback, Deshaun Watson. I'm not playing him this week against the Ravens. The Ravens eat quarterbacks alive. They held the Lions to 6 points, the Seahawks to 3. Watson's only good game this year was against the Cardinals last week, who are one of the worst defenses in the league. Jerome Ford is now fully healthy, which should allow the Browns to lean on the run a little bit more. I just cannot start Deshaun Watson. He's an absolute must sit. I know some people are going to think, oh, he's great, but he's not. Don't start him this week. I'm quarterback 20. Running back, my must start is Jahmyr Gibbs. I get the concerns. He hasn't really done much in the games that Montgomery's played, but I do think we're going to see something a little different. He had 26 carries for 152 yards and a touchdown and 5 receptions for 37 yards in the last game without Montgomery. And then he had 18 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown, 9 receptions for 58 yards in the game before that. Even if the rushing upside is not there for Jahmyr Gibbs, the PPR floor will be. So I think Montgomery higher than Jahmyr Gibbs. I have Montgomery around running back 14, running back 15. But in PPR, I still have Jahmyr Gibbs at running back 18. I think you have to play him. There's just too much upside to sit him for a lot of bad options that are out there. So he's still a must start for me. My must-sit running back is Gus Edwards. You cannot play him this week. He had an 18% snap share last week. 5 carries. But he turned them into 52 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was fantasy gold. However, we cannot rely on that little sliver of opportunity to provide us fantasy value. Keaton Mitchell is emerging in this backfield. Justice Hill dominated playing time. And Gus Edwards also has no PPR floor at all, because he only has 6 catches all year, and 80 of his 107 receiving yards came on 1 catch. So can't start Gus Edwards. I'm at running back 30. And that doesn't mean I'm starting the other guys there. I actually have Edwards the highest, but this is a kind of a wait and see backfield for me, especially going against Cleveland. Now, the wide receiver. Now, I know we just talked about Deshaun Watson as a must sit, but I will say that you can start Amari Cooper anyway, and that's why I included him as my must-start wide receiver. It's a little confidence boost, and even the worst quarterbacks can usually support one passing game offense and option. And for the Browns, that's Amari Cooper. He has 617 yards in 8 games already, averaging 4.4 catches and 77.4 yards a game. No other receiver has more than 319 yards, David Njoku, so Cooper's almost doubling him up in production on the year. And Cooper has had 90 or more yards in 3 of the 4 games that Deshaun Watson started and finished. So every time Deshaun Watson plays, Amari Cooper is pretty much great. So there's no reason to sit him. Volume is king, especially at wide receiver. And yeah, he's getting the targets. He's producing. And there's no reason to sit him. I have him wide receiver 20, which is higher than his expert consensus ranking, which I think comes in at around wide receiver 26. Now, a must-sit wide receiver, Jerry Jeudy. I don't know why you would want to play Jerry Jeudy. He's done nothing all year. The Broncos obviously wanted to trade him at the trade deadline. He's not even averaging 4 catches or 50 yards a game. He trails Sutton in all receiving categories. And the worst part is that Sutton has 6 touchdowns to Jeudy's 1. Jeudy also, I feel like, is falling a little bit out of favor. He fell to a 59% snap share last week, and that's a season low. I think the Broncos wanted to trade him, as we kind of saw. I would not be surprised if Jerry Jeudy is not really a part of this team's plans and is benched somewhat soon, or at least reduced in role, and Marvin Mims sees a little bit more time. I'm not saying that's going to happen this week. So I do still have Jerry Jeudy ranked at wide receiver 37, but I really do not want to play him. I don't see much upside. I don't see much floor. He's the kind of player where no matter what you need or no matter what your situation, I'd always feel yucky putting him in my lineup. So boring, low upside wide receiver, not playing Jerry Jeudy. In terms of players with some more upside, though, Taysom Hill. He's a must play. You have to play him. He's seeing a 50% snap share recently, which is an upgrade over his previous gadget role. He's been seeing more time on the ground as a running back. He has 49 carries and 3 rushing touchdowns compared to just 20 receptions and 5 passing completions. So it's mostly coming on the ground. But if you could start a middling running back in a tight end slot, I feel like most people would. And he still has the possibility to get you there with a reception or somehow a completion for a touchdown like he had last week. So tight end 8 in PPR leagues. Of course, in standard or half, he's even better because he's not getting the receiving volume. But even in a PPR league, he's still a must play. There just aren't that many reliable tight ends this week. And I'm happy to start him at tight end 8, even with Juwan Johnson back. Taysom Hill is, he has a role. And that's more than we can say for most tight ends in the NFL. Now, my must-sit tight end, I've just heard some of this saying, oh, T. Higgins is out. Jamar Chase is hurting. We should play Irv Smith Jr. He scored a touchdown last week. Please don't do that. Last week, while he did score, he had a season low, 36% snap share. 4 tight ends saw time. 4. Drew Sample led in snaps. Tanner Hudson also produced. And Mitchell Wilcox also got involved. We have no idea who is going to lead the Bengals in snaps or receptions or anything. Tanner Hudson has looked just as good as Irv Smith this year. I will not be playing Irv Smith other than in absolute desperation. I have him tight end 26. He's completely off the radar. It's just important to note that I've gotten a lot of questions about him, and this is me saying do not play him under any circumstances. So of course, if you're liking the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave those start-sit questions in the comments. And of course, the Patreon link is up at the top right, which I can never seem to point to, but I'll figure it out eventually. Top right, you can click on it and sign up. 7-day free trials are available now. And only patrons get to ask these advanced questions that we're going to get into. So I have 5 from the Patreon today, and let's jump straight into answering their questions. The first question, and it's funny, this was asked before last night's game. What's your outlook on Bryce Young? I got to watch him play a game for the first time yesterday. They're referring to the Sunday game. And it was so bad. It's even more prescient now because there's another game where he was so bad. I got to tell you, Bryce Young looks bad, but I don't want to write him off. Jared Goff was absolutely horrific as a rookie. Carson Wentz was absolutely horrific as a rookie. Trevor Lawrence was horrific as a rookie. Tua Tagovailoa was benched as a rookie. These are players who were horrific as rookies. And yeah, some of them didn't work out, like Carson Wentz, but he still had an MVP season the next year. Jared Goff has had a lot of success throughout his career. Trevor Lawrence is now a star, and Tua has kind of also been great. So I'm not going to write someone off just because they were bad year one, but you got to say that him being a bust is in the range of outcomes. I dropped him another round of super flex value. This is not a cornerstone dynasty asset. This is someone who has risk. So you got to acknowledge that at this point. But I'm not giving up on him. And I'm sure he's going to be one of my biggest buys throughout the offseason because a number 1 pick gets a lot of Teflon. Next question. Where does Daniel Jones now rank in Superflex Dynasty? I mean, he has a torn ACL. I think the Giants are going to lose some more. They could easily move on. If they get a top 2 pick, they're taking Caleb Williams or Drake May. The real question for the Giants is if they don't get a top 2 pick, then what do they do? Then I don't know. But if they are in the top 2, I think they'll take Caleb Williams or Drake May. I have Daniel Jones at quarterback 27. I do think he is not bad. I think he is one of the 32 best quarterbacks on planet Earth. So I do think he gets another chance to start or compete for a starting job eventually, which is why I have not dropped him out of my, value range in Superflex. But we're no longer talking about a franchise quarterback. We're talking about a bridge middling quarterback now. So that's why I'm quarterback 27. And when the rookies come in, he'll probably be outside my top 30. The only upside with Daniel Jones is when he does play, he has fantasy value because he runs. But we'll see if that continues up to the torn ACL. If he can't run, Daniel Jones isn't valuable. So that's kind of my take on Daniel Jones. What's your level of concern on Bijan Robinson? For talent 0, Bijan Robinson is very talented. In terms of role, I'm a little bit concerned. In Dynasty, I still have him running back 1, but it's no longer a tier by himself. He's in a tier with Bryce Hall, and maybe we'll see about Jahmyr Gibbs, but at least with Bryce Hall, he's in the same tier. In terms of start sit, even against Arizona, I only have Bijan Robinson at running back 11 this week. So in the best matchup possible, he's still only running back 11 for the week. So I do have some concern with Bijan Robinson, at least in the short term. We'll see about next year, but I would say middling to overall answer the question. Is Adam Thielen on a downward trajectory? Is what he did last night what we're going to see the rest of the season? I mean, he had 10 targets, but only turned them into 6 catches for 42 yards. I would say, because he's old, I'm going to lean yes, that he's on a downward trajectory. I think that he's not a wide receiver 1 anymore. I think we got to move him down in ranks. I had him at wide receiver 6 this week. That obviously is not going to prove good. But he's still going to be startable. If you get 10 targets at wide receiver, you're startable. So he's not going to be outside my top 20 next week, but he's not going to be inside my top 12. He'll probably be in the wide receiver 2 range. Last question. I got CJ Stroud as backup to Joe Burrow. Who should I start? I know CJ Stroud absolutely went off this week, but Nico Collins is almost certainly going to miss this week's game. And I would rather trust Joe Burrow missing T. Higgins than CJ Stroud missing a weapon. So I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. I have Joe Burrow at quarterback 2 and CJ Stroud at quarterback 6. So I have Joe Burrow considerably ahead, especially since it looks like Jamar Chase is going to play. So I want to thank all the patrons for those questions. Remember that you can sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/fantasyadvice. And the link is at the top right. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And I will see you all later. Peace out.